This video is about the questions from several friends regarding the interpretation of T.J. Powers, the dose effect. Below are our responses, for reference only. Question 1. People often say that our brains evolved for life on the African savanna and are not well adapted to modern society. But since we left the savanna so long ago, why haven't we evolved to fit modern life? And when will we? Response. It's true. Our brains and bodies were designed for survival on the African savanna. The clearest evidence is how often we do things that are clearly irrational or even harmful. Take sugar, for example. The human body doesn't need nearly as much sugar as we consume today. In fact, too much sugar is bad for us. If our physiology had evolved to suit modern life, our brains would send a signal to make us stop craving sugar after we'd had enough. Just like how hunger naturally regulates itself. But that's not the case. We just love sugar. Or take our craving for new information. A celebrity divorce on the other side of the world has zero impact on our lives. Yet we eagerly click to read about it. If we had evolved for modern society, such information would bore us. Instead, we're addicted to novelty. These seemingly irrational habits are legacies of savanna life. Back then, sugar was extremely rare. Evolution gave us the drive to seek it out, but not the mechanism to stop wanting it. Likewise, in small tribal communities where little ever changed, new information could be a matter of life or death, so our brains evolved to prioritize it. Evolutionary psychology, the study of how our minds evolve, is a well-established scientific discipline, backed by solid evidence. But if that's the case, why haven't we evolved beyond these ancient instincts after all this time? The answer is simple. We actually haven't been away from the savanna that long. Our species' brain and body took shape roughly 200,000 to 300,000 years ago, and for most of that time, humans lived as hunter-gatherers. Agriculture appeared only about 10,000 years ago. And even then, it didn't make us much wealthier. True material abundance only began with the Industrial Revolution, just 2 or 3 centuries ago. For most people on Earth, living without hunger has been possible for only a few decades. That's far too short for major biological evolution. Natural selection works by changing the genes of populations through reproduction. And since humans take about 20 years per generation, evolution proceeds very slowly. That said, humans are still evolving, and have been over the past 10,000 years. For example, resistance to infectious diseases such as malaria. When such diseases strike, they kill vast numbers of people. Those who survive, often because of a helpful genetic mutation, are more likely to pass on their genes. Today, many people carry genes that confer partial immunity to malaria. They are the descendants of survivors. Or take the Tibetan Plateau. If someone from the lowlands, say northern China, moves there, they may suffer severe altitude sickness. But Tibetans are fine, because they are descendants of people who adapted genetically to high altitudes. When their ancestors first settled there a few thousand years ago, most must have struggled terribly. Only those with the right genetic traits survived and reproduced. Another famous case of recent evolution is lactose tolerance. In mammals, milk is for infants, not adults. Milk's main sugar, lactose, requires the enzyme lactase to digest. Normally, animals lose the ability to produce lactase after weaning, becoming lactose intolerant. Adults who drink milk without lactase experience stomach pain, bloating, or diarrhea. Humans changed that through culture. When we invented animal herding, milk became a year-round food source. A huge survival advantage, especially during famine. Adults who could digest milk had better odds of survival and reproduction. Genetic studies show that lactase persistence, the ability to digest milk into adulthood, first appeared 7,000 to 9,000 years ago, independently in Europe, the Middle East, and East Africa. In only a few hundred generations, it spread widely through those populations. This is an example of gene-culture coevolution. Culture creates new environments that speed up biological evolution. So, could we intentionally evolve to adapt our minds and bodies to modern life? Not quite. Evolution is a brutally selective process. For a gene to spread quickly, people with that gene must have more offspring, and those without it must die off. That's not something a humane society can, or should, allow. In fact, evolution today may be running in reverse. Those who best adapt to modern life, highly educated, high-income individuals, tend to have fewer children. Meanwhile, people with more traditional lifestyles often have more children. By that logic, humanity could be undergoing a kind of reverse natural selection, where those least adapted to modern life leave more descendants. Is that frightening? Not necessarily. Because our survival and progress today depend less on genes, and more on means. Units of cultural transmission, such as ideas and knowledge. Modern values, technologies, and ways of thinking spread not by blood, but by information. Yes, some poorer regions still have high birth rates, while in East Asia people study hard and have few children. But that doesn't mean the future will belong only to those who reproduce the most. As long as learning truly changes lives, even children in poorer regions will embrace education and progress. Cultural evolution is far faster than genetic evolution. In China, for example, the imperial examination system took just over 1,000 years to turn the entire society into one that deeply values learning. So if you believe in the power of culture, you should be optimistic about humanity's future. Newton never married or had children. Yet all of us are his spiritual descendants. Question 2. Since oxytocin is a neurochemical that promotes bonding between people, enhancing trust toward others and boosting one's own confidence, it seems to be a positive substance overall. During pregnancy and childbirth, women release large amounts of oxytocin. So why does postpartum depression seem so common among new mothers? Does oxytocin help alleviate it? And what are the main physiological mechanisms behind postpartum depression? Response. It all depends on context. Oxytocin is highly sensitive to one's environment. When a new mother is surrounded by a supportive atmosphere, where she feels cared for and connected, oxytocin promotes closeness and helps relieve stress. However, if she experiences stress during this period, such as relationship tension caused by childcare challenges, emotional exhaustion due to sleep deprivation, or loneliness from spending long hours alone at home, the drop in oxytocin levels from its previously high baseline, caused by childbirth, can feel drastic. This relative decline may amplify negative emotions and make distress feel stronger. That said, postpartum depression is not primarily caused by oxytocin. It is more closely linked to the sharp drop in estrogen and progesterone after childbirth, the stress response to labor pain, and immune and inflammatory factors. Still, when a mother receives consistent emotional and practical support from her family, maintaining higher oxytocin levels can definitely alleviate, rather than worsen, postpartum depression. Question 3. Can activities like recalling warm memories, writing gratitude notes, or listening to soft, beautiful instrumental music help boost oxytocin levels? Response. Yes. Recalling, not merely imagining, but genuinely remembering, warm family moments can promote oxytocin release. Simply looking through old family photos or watching family videos can have a real effect. Writing gratitude notes works in a similar way, reminding us to strengthen our sense of human connection. Listening to soft, harmonious music can also help, as it evokes emotional resonance and a feeling of connection. And there's research evidence supporting all of this. However, the effects are generally modest. It's still best to engage in real-life interactions. For instance, instead of just writing gratitude notes to yourself, reach out directly to the person you're thankful for and tell them what they mean to you. That kind of exchange triggers a stronger oxytocin response and benefits both of you. Simply saying thank you more often to your family, colleagues, and friends is surprisingly powerful. For others, praise can sometimes be even more effective than gratitude. As we've said before, don't feel shy about it. Get into the habit of noticing others' strengths and offering genuine compliments naturally. There's also another kind of gratitude that can enhance oxytocin and confidence. Silent gratitude for what you already have. As modern people living in relatively comfortable conditions, we already possess much of what others might envy. We've mentioned that comparison tends to lower oxytocin levels, while appreciation and gratitude are the opposite. They help elevate oxytocin and strengthen emotional well-being. Question 4. In the process where neurotransmitters take effect, does human free will play any role? Response. Free will can influence neurotransmitters, but not directly. You can't just sit there and command your brain, give me some dopamine. I need more serotonin. Cheer up. Stop feeling down. There's no neurotransmitter faucet you can simply turn on or off. But you can regulate them indirectly, because neurotransmitters are triggered by context. The simplest way is to recall a pleasant experience. For example, a time when you interacted warmly with friends or family. That memory alone can gently increase your oxytocin levels. A better way is to step outside and engage with real life. Go out in the sun, for instance. So while absolute free will may not exist, you can still take active steps to improve your mental state. Mindfulness meditation is another effective method. There's solid evidence showing that mindfulness enhances the activity of the prefrontal cortex, improves emotional stability, and can even reduce the size of the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for generating fear. To put it simply, mindfulness trains you to focus on the present moment, notice emotions as they arise, and then let them pass, without letting any one emotion dominate your mind. This dual effect makes the brain more aware of emotions, while remaining unmoved by them. As a result, emotions feel less overwhelming, and the brain becomes more sensitive to neurotransmitters without overusing them. In this sense, mindfulness doesn't just balance your neurotransmitter system. It enhances the brain's sensitivity to these chemicals. When a release is needed, it happens quickly and efficiently, and only a small amount is enough to work. Isn't that wonderful? That's it for today's content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.